We are back with another review for Gym Reviewer. Today we're going to talk about some of the newest products from Rogue Fitness and show you guys prices, our thoughts, what we would change about the products, and overall recommendations. Without further ado, let's get down to it. First product is the Rogue Power Drive. This was a product created by a former NFL athlete. In my opinion, for $2,750, you could buy a very nice entire complete home gym. To buy this in a home gym, I think is kind of outrageous. I could see this being used in a box, maybe, CrossFit box or a really big gym that has a lot of fun, stuff like that. That said, if you do want to get kind of this strongman type of training in, my recommendation would be go down to your local tire shop. Okay, a place that replaces tires, stuff like that. Ask them if they have any free big tires, semi-trailer, truck tires, whatever. And they'd be more than glad usually to get rid of them for it, give them away, because they actually have to pay for someone to dispose of them. So you can get them for free. Just make sure you have enough room in your car. Worst case scenario, go to Home Depot. $50, $100, whatever. You rent a little one of their trucks, whatever, a flatbed. But for $2,000, almost $3,000, this is a hard one to to recommend. But one of Rogue's newer products. Next product, the Rogue FM6 Twin Functional Trainer. This is a sick product. I am definitely considering getting this. It basically has the functionality of a squat rack, as we could see in here. Also of a full functional trainer, also weight storage, and also with that, not just functional trainer, but if you look over here, there's also a middle, let's see if we get a better angle. There's also a middle high pull and low pull, which means basically you could do all your lat pull downs. You put in a bench right here, put in a little, there's a nice little knee pad, I believe, attachment you could put in as well. You could get your low rows, and then out here in the front, you can even really do all of your functional training, which is really cool. You could put them at different levels and different heights. And with that, you're getting, a proper Rogue Monster rack. This looks like right here, the basic setup is a 90-inch. It looks like there are maybe 24 or 30-inch inners on both sides. Obviously, you can change that. You could get 43-inch, 30-inch, and so on. And there's a lot of customization that you can do on this rack. And also, as you could see up here, a lot of engineering that you can really throw in on this rack. Or sorry, not that you could throw in, but that Rogue invested into this rack. As you could see, these angled cross members up here that help kind of flow the cables respectively to the sides. Now that said, let me go through real quick some of the attachments I'd go through, because this is almost $6,000, but you have to think about it this way. You're working out in a home gym, you have limited space, and this is like 3 different machines in one basically, right? You have your lat tower, your low row, your functional trainer, your power rack, pull-up bar. Like there's a lot going on here. Some things I would do, I would probably add the shrouds because they look pretty sick, You already have a home gym, you're already spending this much money, what's a few more $100? And also, you have little kids around in the gym, you want to be careful. These are real pinch points here. Next, so these are, again, the shrouds. Next, I would go for, okay, so here are the options, first of all. You could get the basic standard J cup. You could get the 1-inch sandwich cup, the 2-inch, and the rollers. Me personally, I would go with the 1-inch. Now, you might ask, well, why not just go with the 2-inch? Now, my problem with the 2-inch rollers is that Rogue has a 49-inch width on the racks. So your bar, if you get these 2-inch ones, your bar, the inside of the collars is, pretty close to bumping on these. It's just a nuance. It's a nuisance. Like I've had, row racks in the past, and that the width kind of bugs me, as opposed to, other racks where it's 47 or 48. Like Rep Fitness, for example, is 47-inch width, this direction. Titan Fitness is around 48. Rogue is 49. So with that, I'd prefer the 1-inch. it gives you a little more play here. You know, you get half an inch, you know, maybe a quarter inch here, quarter inch here. It adds up. You feel it. You definitely feel it when we're racking. You know, even if you re-rack and it's slightly off, it you know, makes a difference. Next, I would for sure go with the, you know, regular safety strap system. Okay, so we are in the currently 24-inch depth. I would definitely change that. 24-inch depth is a little too small for me. For this area though, it's perfect. You know, for the weight stacks, 24-inch depth is perfect. But for the inner rack depth, I would definitely go 30-inch. You know, you don't want to feel claustrophobic. You're spending this much money on a rack and doing all the effort. You really want to feel good in your rack. If you have a 24-inch depth rack, it might feel a little tight. You might feel like, you know, whenever you go to squat, there's someone behind you like standing. It's just, you know, it's definitely nicer like this in my opinion. 43-inch it's like honestly too much in my opinion. You really don't need this much depth unless you're just a huge guy. But for most of us, honestly, 30-inch is perfect and it feels good. I've had multiple 30-inch racks in the past, and that's my preference for sure. I also have had around 3 sets of these safety straps. I really like them from Rogue. You can use them, for example, on Rep PR5000 racks. Just know that they do have a little bit of wiggle room because Rep is on a foreign system, and this is the American system of measurement. So there's a little wiggle there. These are the safety pins. I've had them. Not a fan at all. I think they're terrible, and I definitely wouldn't spend $100 extra on them, as you can see here. So if you're already spending the money, pay an extra $50 and get the amazing safety straps. That's my 2 cents. What else? Ooh, multi-rack roller. I think this is kind of a unnecessary. Look, this could be good for sure. The Rogue Monster multi-rack roller. This could be good for your knees. Okay, you could definitely plant your knees in here for lat pull down and stuff like that. I would consider that. But for $345, that's a little expensive in my opinion. What I would do personally, I would take these J-cups, put them down here, let's say, put a bar across them, maybe put a foam pad over the bar, and use that for my knees. $345 for a movement like a lat tower, like that's almost a, you know, that could be money put towards a standalone lat tower for that price. You know, that's pretty expensive. Again, Rogue's grips are just they're very nice, but they're expensive, and in my opinion, they're not very multifunctional for some of them. I'll get to that later in the video about why I think and some improvements I would put on Rogue's grips, so stay tuned. Again, like, yeah, just these random grips for the pulley, you know, I would probably go third party or different ones. We'll put different videos about grips in the future, I'm sure. Safety spotter arms, absolutely. You know, I would add one set. They are a little expensive, $295. You can get the Titan version. I did that. I bought the Titan version. Just beware, they might not fit perfectly on your rack. You know, you're spending this much money on a rack. You want to have the nice experience of all your products, all your attachments fitting on it. What this will basically do with these safety spotter arms, you can now put them outside of the rack over here, and basically have one bar here, have one bar out here, and, you know, work. You know, we work on the inside and outside of your rack. Working on the outside of the rack, you feel like really nice. You know, it's really open. One of the things I will say though is that these giant pulley systems, I guess, might bug you. I mean, they don't go all the way to the top. You can see the pull-up bar right here kind of stops their height, limits the height, and also at the bottom they're limited on how low they could go. And another point I do want to make is that the cable is on the exterior of the rack. It's not interior, it's not inside of the column. So what that means is, let's say you have your cable all the way at the bottom, right, for like low whatever, you know, bicep curls, whatever you want to do. Well, that means you're gonna have a cable running all the way down, which means you're really gonna be limited on how you can use the exterior of this rack. Like, let's say you have it set up on bicep curls down below. That means you're likely not going to have also your safety spotter arms set up down below. So on one hand, you're getting all this compact stuff, really nice setup in a really small space and really small footprint, but you will have to, you know, probably keep the spotter arms, you know. In one of the cool things, actually, someone commented on a video once. One of the things I do is I keep my spotter arms when not in use. I have 30-inch racks, and I keep the spotter arms basically inside over here on the rack. and it's really good for storage. And you can fully use your safety straps while the spotter arms are stored down here. That said, you will have to move things around because you're dealing in a small space with a lot of functionality in one system. So anytime you want to use your rack on the outside or use the safety spotter arms, you might have to put these handle systems or whatever all the way to the top. You might even have to budget and move these safety straps up 1 or 2 notches, so you could get the right height and safety from your safety spotter arms. Another option, of course, concrete anchor set. I would probably get this, honestly. And why I'm saying that is you have a system this big. It is weighed down pretty well, but that's Rogue's recommendation. Really, is the concrete, anchor down everything. That's most companies' recommendations for safety. That said, if you're renting or just in general, like personally, I don't think I've ever anchored down a rack, just because we don't want to anchor down into into our garage floor foundation of our house. It's like that's scary. Like stuff could happen. If foundations are incredibly expensive. Not to say that drilling a little concrete anchor is going to ruin your foundation, but it's less comfortable. So, one thing I would definitely say though, an update for Rogue that I would recommend. All right, you have a nice rack like this, okay? I'm going to preface this and then I'll explain. You have a really nice rack like this sitting in your garage, flush against the wall. And all of a sudden you want to put 45-pound plates right here. Well, now you're going to have to push this off from your wall a few inches. You're going to have a little gap right here. And in my recommendation, that is less than ideal. If I were Rogue, I would come up with a way to move these weight plates, attach them somehow to this pillar right here, like this cover that we have. And that way they'd be offset from the wall, and you'd have a weight plate sitting right here, let's say, and your rack could be fully flush to the wall. Something else I want to mention is, me personally, I love training with a mirror. I could check my form, I could alter my movement pattern, stuff like that while I'm training, and really, in a sense, coach myself. Now, when you have this lat tower, this pillar right here in the middle, and let's say you have a mirror behind your rack, this can be quite annoying and bothersome for someone who wants to train into a mirror. Another option is, you have a mirror over here in your house or in your garage or whatever. That's definitely another option. You just squat facing the other way, bend, whatever you have to do. One other critique is this is made, this whole rack, apparently is made in the USA, according to Rogue. With imported pulleys though, why didn't we just get imported pulleys? Why didn't we get pulleys from the USA? You put all that effort to make it in the USA. I think, in my opinion, just go and finish it off. That said, these do look like some pretty great pulleys, and Rogue has a very, great reputation with having smooth pulleys. So I'm sure they've done their research and found that maybe this is just a better quality and performance pulley. And I'm sure for price as well as a factor for why they chose this over other options. But it would have been nice if they could have also made that made in the USA, so the product you could buy it, you could be like, wow, made in USA, 100%, supporting the US economy, whatever, great, awesome. That said, so this is a pretty cool product. Also really nice, colors, stuff like that. Really, really nice colors. Ooh, look at that. That's bad. Nice. Okay. So really cool colors, but something else. You're getting the Monster, which means, you have 1-inch holes, key lock system, whatever. But in my opinion, there's kind of a fluke here. There's the Rogue Monster Light Edition. I would not get this. Look, if you're paying $5,000-$6,000 on a rack, $9,000. Oh, why? That's stainless steel. Okay, I see. If you're paying $5,000-$6,000 on a rack, right? Why go and get the Monster Light system just so you could get the 1-inch hole spacing? In my opinion, I've had it. I think 3 different racks with the Monster Light hole spacing. I'm not a fan at all. Okay, really. If you really want, number one, it's incredibly difficult to know what number you're on when you're setting up your safety spotter arms and your J-cups, whatever. Yeah, it's nice for little changes and whatever for bench and stuff like that. But there's so many companies that have created workarounds for this with the 1-inch hole spacing, with basically like J-cups that are slightly altered to 1/2 inch down. And also safety straps in general, basically take away the need for that 1-inch spacing. But honestly, if you're going to go with the rack, go all the way. Get the 1-inch holes, not the 5/8 inch with 1-inch, west side hole spacing. So in my opinion, I would totally skip over this rack. I would not get it. That's my opinion. Next product. Oh, this is actually something really cool. The Rogue Move subscription program. It's basically like their workout of the day program now. You can now, for $15 a month, get fully made workouts. And I'm sure, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a good way that Rogue can help introduce new products, to the training. So let's say a new product comes out. If you decide to get it, you can now add it to your workouts, right? So they have the recommended equipment, of course, that you could use for it. Now, if I were Rogue, what I would do is I would take everyone who has a home gym and allow them to input exactly what equipment they have in their garage. Maybe even using AI, like, you film your garage real quick, or your home, your extra room, wherever your gym is at. And then Rogue takes the equipment that you have and it forms the workouts based off the equipment you have. That would be revolutionary. And then as you add new equipment, you can now add, hey, I just bought the, this new product from Rogue, or I just bought the Echo Bike 3.0. And then it could update that and, update your workouts around that. That would be really cool. But I'm sure this is high level, just something I wanted to share. And just something to note, when you do buy some more expensive products on Rogue, you do actually get, in some cases, a free Rogue Move subscription. So I'll show that in the coming products. And you could test it out. It even comes with a free trial, which is pretty nice. Try it out yourself, see if you like it. Each person has different programs, different training, different. Sometimes it's really nice, having a pre-made program. You don't have to think, you don't have to consider what you're doing every day. You go to the gym, get it done, and that's it. Next product, the Rogue Echo Rower. This one's been around for a bit now. Still, I guess, pretty new, but it is in competition with the Concept 2 rower. This is Rogue's take on it. They've even engineered with SCA, an engineering firm, to verify that the numbers are essentially can be compatible in a sense, or compared to the Concept 2 numbers, so that you can say, hey, I just did a 100-meter pull. Like, what does that mean? If the numbers are off, you have no clue how to compare. But now you can compare to your friend who has a Concept 2, or your previous numbers, your previous PRs, and so on. Price here is super attractive, $8.95 with free shipping. For example, this comes with a 30-day free trial to the Rogue Move subscription. And one thing I really, really like about this is how it folds up. No one's really using. I don't know many people who row on a daily basis. And home gyms, we always have the problem with storage, even commercial gyms, a rower takes up a lot of space. So I really like how they did that. For example, these quick release foot straps look really high end. Some of the Concept 2 ones I'm not a huge fan of. The oversized turf tires are oversized. I think they're a little too much. They're a little they catch your eye a little too much. They almost look a little silly on here. I'm sure they're super usable, but something else I do want to mention. This seating area, the path here, does look actually kind of small. Maybe it's the angle, but it does look a little tiny. That said, that is one of the pluses of this. It's less space, but for a really big athlete, I'm not sure how well they would perform on this. Maybe that's someone who's used this recently in the comments and is a bigger athlete can tell us their thoughts and opinions. But I did want to share that. You could see here the adjustments on the foot straps and also the quick storage. Very nice engineered product. Yeah, it actually does look, this guy looks fairly, I'm assuming he's maybe 5'9". Yeah, the seat could, I think, be a little longer, but it's definitely up to a bigger athlete to let us know how that is. Screen looks fairly similar to the Concept 2. But look, honestly, for price and with Rogue's, warranties and Rogue backing, it's such a good name. Like, you have an amazing company that'll be around forever backing this product. So I wouldn't hesitate to pick this one up for $8.95. It could go up. Prices are constantly going up. Steel, materials, and so on. So I would definitely consider getting this one, and maybe we might have to get our hands on this. Next product, the Rogue Echo Weight Vest. This is something I have had my eye on since I saw it on the site. I just want to say this athlete is either huge or the weight set's a little tiny. Sorry, the weight vest is a little tiny. Some quick downsides of the weight vest. You do have to have plates, which means you do have to spend money on every size and weight plate you want. Basic options, 5-pound pair, 10-pound pair, 20-pound pair. That's great, but for someone who wants to constantly change weight and, stuff like that, this isn't the product. This product is ideal for someone who, let's say, wants to move and doesn't want weight clinking around. That's really what Rogue is aiming for and targeting with a product like this, to make it streamlined, to make it so that you don't feel that you really have a weight vest on you. That's why you could see here the weight vest is sitting, it looks fairly low. There's a really big area here for, shoulders, chest, whatever, and a lot of mobility in here. They really tried to streamline it to the size of the actual weight plate itself. That said, black is pretty sick. Me personally, though, I just want to mention real quick, the stitching on here is fantastic. Look at that. That stitching, maybe I would double up here, but the stitching right here, that looks very nice. That's, strong stuff. And this is made from 1000D Cordura and also 500D, which is fantastic. But that's what I was saying. So basically, I would definitely go with this nice, this color, in my opinion, is much better. I'll go with the Coyote Brown, as Rogue calls it. It looks better in my opinion. You're getting weight vest, why not? One thing to note though, please guys, just all you guys in the military, police, and so on that are serving and doing the important work that is keeping us all safe. Please note that this is strictly a fitness accessory and should not be used as body armor. You could technically put plates in here, but please, Rogue is saying not to do that. One thing I will say is, with repeated use, and if someone were to use this as body armor, I would think twice about the Velcro here. Or also over time, Velcro, as it gets dirty, you have to keep it clean. You have to keep your equipment in, good hands. Dust, stuff like that, just make sure it doesn't get overly dirty, so that your Velcro here, which is really the main part of keeping the plate attached to your body in the sense, stays tight too. Price is a little pricey, $145, but this is a product that, in my opinion, compared to like something like a Goat Ruck, like this is awesome. You compared to a backpack, you're barely gonna feel this, and also it's gonna be super low profile, which is really nice for someone, again, like I said, who wants to move and not feel that they're really wearing a weight vest, besides getting obviously the benefit of the weight. I want to give a huge shout out to Darko from Darko Lifts on Instagram and social media and so on. There's a product I've been following for a long time, the barbell anchors, and I'm super glad to see that the dock is now on Rogue Fitness. We will link to this below. Fully made in the USA. And just a really clean product. He engineered this and came up with it. Super streamlined. Look how it sits on the rack and holds the bars. And just, a product I've had my eye on for a while. We have to get our hands on this one day. And yeah, man, he did a really nice job on this. It looks clean. It's a nice design. You can now basically also use your barbell even as a pull-up bar. Like, that's amazing. You want knurling for pull-ups? Like, awesome. All of a sudden you have a curl bar. You could put a curl bar on one of these and now do pull-ups on essentially a curl bar. These are some of the basic products, anchors, docks, and so on. But huge shout out, guys. Check him out, Darko Lifts and Darko on Instagram and so on. Amazing work. Keep it up. Next product. These are some of my gripes. Okay, guys. I think these are cool products. I think that Rogue is falling a little behind on some of these, and this is a longer video, guys. I apologize that we're almost at 24ish minutes maybe, but Rogue is putting out a lot of good stuff, so I wanted to touch on it. Some things I do like about these new grip attachments: you have, from what I understand to be, compatibility with the 2-inch barbell sleeve, so essentially you could use these on your bar for landmine work, etc. That's amazing. But one of the things I really don't like is you could essentially create one or two of these and would fill the need for basically all the attachments you could want. Now, these handles have to be put in, and it's really cool that they can, you can change width and so on and change handles, but you have to do so with the hex key. Like, you really have to go about it and put in some effort to change these handles. It'll probably take you a few minutes to change the handles. I'm looking forward to the day where Rogue puts out one of these bars, or just standardizes it on all the attachments, where you can do quick release and quick change with these handles to be either straight, angled, and so on, and basically limit how many products you need to really own and buy. Same thing here. Like, this product, like, this is just a multi-angle cable attachment, but imagine you could basically put this product, and I guess like these other two products in one product, just by adding that one thing of being able to change the quick release and change of the handles and handle angle. So guys, that is all we've got today. Thank you so much for joining us with another review and comparison with Gym Reviewer. Stay tuned for more. Check out our other videos. Please like, follow, subscribe. It really helps us out. And we'll catch you on the next video. Thank you so much.